Hello everyone! One of my favorite things about a new year is finding out what Pantone's new color of the year is going to be. For 2022, they chose a color called Very Peri, which is a really nice blue purple that's actually one of my favorite colors anyway, so I was very excited. To celebrate this lovely shade, I decided to make this color the theme of my new palette knife painting demo. I found a really nice photo reference of this lovely purplish heron, and now I'm going to break down the process for y'all. Just to speed things along, I already painted the base for the background by smearing together some blues and greens for the water. It's always a good idea to prep the base background ahead of time because it does need to dry before you do anything else. Aside from that, I'm only going to be using 5 different colors for this picture. I outlined the basic shape of my heron first as a guide with a white chalk pencil. Moving from the background to the foreground, I'm embellishing the water with some reflective marks in white. I've added some water to my white so it's a little more translucent and not as stark. I'm streaking the paint on first with the tip of my palette knife and then smearing it with the flat side down. To get really thin streaks, you can use the side of your palette knife. I'm really just smudging some of this white here and there. Then we're going to keep using the white and completely fill in the heron outline with a base of white. Smear with the palette knife down flat to fill in larger areas, and use the tip or the side for fine details, smaller areas. Now we want to go right into adding color while our white base is still wet because this is going to help us get the effects we want. Without even rinsing off the palette knife, it still has white on it. I'm also dipping it into the blue. Then I'm using the tip to make some short little streaks along the edge of the wings to start the feathers. You can drag the side of your palette knife through the wet paint to add more feathery textured detail. I'm making another inner row of shorter streaks, also using the same technique. After we do the same thing on each wing, then we're also going to do this to the feathers on the edge of the tail. Still working with our blue, I'm adding some blue shadows where the wings meet up with the body and also at the base of the long neck. The small curved tip of this palette knife naturally makes feathered shapes, which is great. Next, I've wiped the blue off my palette knife and I'm going in with some light purple. These feathers are going to be finer, so I'm going in and making little short streaks in the areas that are still white, following the pattern on the wings and also going up the neck. I'm not filling it in solid, I'm still letting some of the white show through in between the purple feathers I'm adding. Now I'm going to add in a different shade of purple made from blending my dark purple with some of my white. I'm going to pretty much completely blend over everything I've done while it's still wet with this new purple. Though doing this may seem counterproductive at first, layering like this is very important with palette knife painting because even if you don't think so, you will still see the tones you originally laid down through your new layers, and it really does make a difference in the end result. I'm blending over everything using the same style of strokes I've been using to make the feathers. Now, more layering to add depth, we're going to add some of our darks back in. Without wiping off my palette knife, I'm dipping it in a little tiny bit of black, which is going to make a nice gray color. And I'm going ahead and applying this over the tail to add some shadow. Now, leaving that gray shadow color on there, I'm also dipping into some of my blue again, and just going over the very tips of the darker color on the edge of the wings and bringing some of that darkness back out. Next, I'm going to blend together a sort of periwinkle color by using my white and dark purple I've already mixed together here and blending in some of that blue. With this new color, I'm going to bring some of those blue tints into the rest of the body by adding some small feathers in this color over the light purple areas that we have. So as you can see, I'm really just blending variations of the same basic colors over and within each other to build our forms. I'm adding a little more dark blue to this periwinkle color and then applying it at the base of the neck, over where the body rounds out, where there'd be more of a shadow, and also the top of the wings, and this is just going to make it look even more three-dimensional. Now again, I'm not wiping off my palette knife because I'm about to use some of the black and I really want those lighter colors to blend with it so it isn't too intense. Additionally, I'm also watering this black down because a little bit goes a long way. Anytime you need to make really thin lines with a palette knife, adding a good amount of water is key. So we've added a lot of shadows, now it's time to add the highlights. I've wiped off my palette knife so I have a clean slate and we're not mixing gray in with everything. I've added some water to my white to help with blending, and also the paint that's underneath is still a little bit wet, so that will help it blend nicely as well. Now I'm adding some little streaks of white in the center of the wings, the body, the neck, to really make that area pop out and look three-dimensional, and also to the tips of the wings to separate them from the background. And that's it, we have our heron. Once you get the hang of it, palette knife painting, especially with birds, is so fun because it really is using the same sort of streak over and over again and just focusing on color and just layering and blending and building up those colors. It actually is quite a relaxing process, so I really hope you try this at home. And as always, if you have any questions, feel free to leave me a comment. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this, be sure to subscribe, and you can also check out my channel to see some other palette knife painting demos that I've done.